Often on the roads surrounding cities or on main roads, men and women of different ages stand, hoping to hitch a ride to their destination or get closer to it. On July 17th, around 5 p.m., Mr. Adolph, a 65-year-old man, was returning home in central Miami. He was coming from South Beach. He stopped at the intersection on the far right. On the sidewalk stood a young woman who seemed to want to head downtown. Mr. Adolph's suspicion was not misplaced, as the young woman soon signaled to him with her hand. The man rolled down the front passenger window and asked her about her destination. She said she wanted to go to Biscayne Boulevard. She mentioned that taxi drivers refused to stop and pick her up for reasons unknown. Since he was alone in his car and Biscayne Boulevard was in the same direction as his home, the man saw no reason not to give her a ride. After all, it was on his way. He agreed to take her, and she quickly got into the car beside him. As soon as she settled in and the car started moving, she reached out without asking permission, changed the station on the radio, and stopped at a station playing a song by singer Mariah Carey. Without any hesitation, she immersed herself in singing. She noticed a pack of cigarettes and, without hesitation, took one, opened it, and lit it, using the car's lighter. The man didn't pay much attention to her. He wondered what kind of audacity lay within her to behave so boldly, evident from her utmost nonchalance. At one point, he thought she might be a prostitute luring her clients in this way. He wondered, could the young woman really think she had caught his interest? Didn't she notice that he was an older man? He remained calm despite all the young woman's actions. He showed no emotion whatsoever. He remembered his lifelong companion whom he loved, who passed away 2 months ago after suffering for a long time from breast cancer. How could he think otherwise? Rather, how could he be attracted to such a reckless woman sitting next to him? All he cared about was getting her to her destination, then wiping these moments from his mind, as they brought no joy or comfort. That evening he had plans with a group of his old friends at his house for evening coffee. In the end, he approached his destination with only a little left to rid himself of the encounter he had on his way. When he arrived at Biscayne Boulevard, he stopped and asked her to get out. But she surprised him. She began screaming and tearing her clothes. She claimed that the man was attempting to assault her, and her appearance suggested she was indeed under attack. He drove his car away from curious onlookers. He knew they would soon gather around him. He asked her what she wanted. It was the moment she had been waiting for. She said she wanted him to pay her for the sexual encounter he forced her into. The man responded that what she was saying was a lie and asked her to get out and end this farce. The young woman, holding a piece of her torn clothing in her hand, insisted that he had to pay her if he wanted to avoid further trouble. The man laughed. His laughter echoed outside the car. The young woman was determined to extort him, so he decided to use all his connections to ensure she received the punishment she deserved. She demanded a large sum. He tried to persuade her, but she became more determined, threatening to scream. She pretended to succumb to her extortion. He told her he would go to the ATM at his bank branch to withdraw the amount. She said to herself, "The plan has worked." But what Adolph had in mind was something else entirely. He decided to take her to the police station from the back, so if she stopped there, she wouldn't be able to escape. Once they arrived, and he had securely locked the doors of his car, he got out and called one of the officers, introducing himself. The greeting the officer gave was enough to make the woman in the car realize the seriousness of the situation she was in. He asked him to take the woman inside and wait for him to park his car in a place where parking was allowed. After a few minutes, Mr. Adolph entered the police station. As soon as he entered, Police Dean stood up and greeted him appropriately, recognizing a well-known figure in Miami. The young woman was isolated in the office chair, looking pale. The police dean asked him about the matter that brought him to the police station. He recounted his story with the young woman since she stopped him and asked him to take her on his way to Biscayne Boulevard. Until she turned against him, he described her as a snake. He told how she tore her clothes and tried to scream to attract bystanders and make them witnesses to her alleged assault attempt. The young woman retorted that she was just joking. She tried to justify her actions, but her torn clothes, which she had torn herself, testified to the lie she claimed. The captain recorded Mr. Adolph's statements in a legal report, expressing his desire to file a complaint against the young woman for attempted extortion. After her fingerprints were taken, it turned out her name was Maya, and she had similar records. It also turned out that she was wanted in similar cases in several other cities. When her handbag was searched, torn underwear was found inside. All those who had filed complaints against her among her victims were called, and those who could attend did. The officer in charge of the case did not want to present her directly to them. He made her stand among a group of women. The complainants managed to recognize her. When interrogated, Maya admitted to the actions attributed to her. She said she deliberately placed torn underwear in her handbag to use them to extort her victims. She said she was demanding significant amounts of money, and even if she got what she wanted, she disappeared for a while. She said that she resorts to these operations to get money to spend on her mother, who is paralyzed from the outside and needs expensive medications. After the procedure was completed, she was referred to the public prosecutor for extortion, and she was sentenced to 6 months in prison. While serving her sentence, Maya learned from fellow inmates that Mr. Adolph, the man she tried to deceive, was actually the owner of a well-known real estate company. After serving her sentence, she tried to contact the man. She went to his company's office, pushing a wheelchair with her paralyzed mother in it. When she tried to enter, the security guard stopped her. Mr. Adolph watched the scene unfold by chance from his office window, remembering the young woman who tried to extort him. He ordered one of his assistants to investigate her background and verify what she claimed. After 2 days, the assistant confirmed that the woman was taking care of her paralyzed mother, and she had no job. Mr. Adolph had recently completed construction work on one of the buildings and decided to employ her as a cleaner. Maya never met Mr. Adolph, but what the man did for her and for her sick mother was a lesson she learned and remembered throughout her life.